So this is what if Superman and Superboy were in Invincible Part 1. Now this is a kind of the same, I had to change the title a little bit, but I did get a suggestion from one of my subscribers. He was asking this, or she was asking this, or he, I don't really know their gender, but I would probably have to say it's a male. But basically, he asked me if I could do a what if based off the Invincible universe with Superman, Superboy, and Lois Lane, the pretty much Crisis on Infinite Earths version, where they, switched to another world, and Jonathan, Kent, and that Superman was like in the Invincible universe. That's Superboy, stuff like that. So let's get started and let's just dive right into the story. Now, we start our story off doing episode 1, and before episode 1, we see a little recap, or about like an extra 20 minutes added on to the episode, where it would be a recap on Kryptonians and Vulturemites and their history with each other. Now, long ago, thousands of generations ago, when Krypton, Daxam, and, Viltrum were, pretty much birthed into existence, with their planets were made and their species evolved, and a bunch of other stuff happened. As Viltrum would have destroyed or would have killed most of their population to, eradicate the weak among them. And eventually they started to conquer planets and multiple other solar systems. Eventually them figuring out that their democracy, or their rule, law and order, their way of doing things, should be the only democracy in the world. Now, as they would go out to different planets and solar systems, they would eventually come across the solar system of Daxam and Krypton. And also another planet where I think the fish Green Lantern, I don't remember his name, but he was, there because in the Young Justice universe and also in the comics, he was in charge of protecting Krypton before it blew up and stuff like that. That would happen thousands of years before Mark's father was even born, thousands of years before Omni-Man was born. We would see that Viltrum would have tried to go after Krypton, as Krypton would have fought back, their technology being very advanced, being able to go toe-to-toe with Viltrumites, them having one specific weapon that could actually go against Viltrumites. Now, Viltrumites' weakness in this canon, actually, their weakness would be able to be formed in the form of, red and white kryptonite. Now, red and white kryptonite is a modified artificial kryptonite that Kryptonians made before any other kryptonite was even formed or made. Now, this kryptonite, it's pretty simple. It eradicates the Vulturemite gene and slowly kills the Vulturemite in the span of a couple of hours if it's exposed to the Vulturemite's skin or their immune system for longer over 3 hours. Longer than 3 hours, their body disintegrates and turns into dust or ash. Their body feeling increased and unimaginable pain. Their liver and multiple parts of their organs would have collapsed over time, and eventually their brain would collapse, them dying instantly, falling down to the ground. It being basically a death sentence for any Vulturemite that is at least a 6 feet range of, red and white kryptonite. And red and white kryptonite is just kind of, I guess, a marble-ish form of kryptonite. It basically just being a white and red marbled kryptonite. Now, they would modify it into taking down multiple other Vultrums, and Vultrum would have had to retreat. Vultrum would have made an alliance with Krypton, stay away, but they would have planted one of their own in Krypton. Now, over time, this Vultrumite would have been able to contact Brainiac, and in this canon, in this fanfiction, Brainiac would still be the one that would destroy Krypton. As Krypton would be destroyed, and most of everybody would have, tried to flee Earth, as Superman would have fled Earth, being sent to Earth about 2 years prior, when pretty much superheroes started to become a really big thing on Earth. Now, pretty much what would happen, we would get switched to Superman in his teenage years, about 14, as he would see that he would have been, just experiencing or just developing his powers in Smallville. But what would happen is that about the same day, pretty much the 14th birthday of Clark Kent, or Kal-El, pretty much Omni-Man would have landed or flown to Earth. being there to conquer it, but eventually him realizing that he fell in love with one of the Earthlings, aka Mark's mother. Now, as he would fall in love with Debbie, eventually them having a child near the same, about a couple years prior on when Jonathan Kent would be born. Superman would have grown up and became Superman. He becoming Superman about 2 years after Omni-Man's appearance. Omni-Man not being a big thing, but in the second year of Omni-Man being Omni-Man, Superman would have hit the stage. So after Superman would make his debut on screen of pretty much superhero culture, as he would have been a lot more heroic, pretty much everywhere at once, and overall just straight up a better version of Omni-Man, as everybody would love him just a tad bit more than Omni-Man. Omni-Man and Superman would have been on the same level of popularity, pop culture, and merch altogether, them being somewhat equal in terms of, well, popularity. Some people think that Superman's a lot more heroic and a lot more, let's just say, Boy Scouty, since he is technically, well, incredibly strong and probably stronger than Omni-Man. People making, theories and a bunch of other videos online about Superman and Omni-Man in this universe's pop culture. Now, over the years, Omni-Man, having Jonathan, Omni-Man having Mark, and Superman finding Lois, marrying her about the same time, or near about the same time where he would have married Lois. Debbie would have been married to Nolan, or would have been married to Omni-Man. Now what would happen is, doing this, as Kal-El or Clark Kent or Superman would have had Jonathan about, let's say, a year after, or 2 years, or a couple years after Mark's birth. Now, Omni-Man and Superman's relationship would have been somewhat weird. Superman trying to be friends with Omni-Man, and most of the time actually thinking he's Kryptonian. Never really seen other powers that Kryptonians would use, or he has, like laser vision, or cold breath, or X-ray vision, or anything like that of any sorts. Sorry, a car just flew back. A car drove past me. But pretty much after Superman would have made his, whole entire mark on the world, pop culture, alongside Omni-Man, as he would try to be friends with Omni-Man, thinking he's human, but thinking he's Kryptonian, trying to befriend him, asking him some questions about Kryptonian knowledge, and also asking him if he's an alien. Him responding yes, as Omni-Man would have also thought that, well, Clark was a Viltrumite, but him not knowing for sure, because if he told, Clark Kent or Kal-El that he was Viltrumite, Kal-El was told about the histories of the Viltrumites and about their powers and their abilities, and that in theory, or not in theory, but pretty much with our cells, so they're so evolved, and they're basically just better than Viltrumite cells, as pretty much Clark Kent or Kal-El's father in the hologram would have said that pretty much the pretty much theory, or the computer system they built for Kryptonian cells when they react with red sun cells, or red sun solar energy on their cells, they would become 1,000 times stronger than Viltrumites, but being near the same strength. Now, what would happen is Clark or Kal-El would have been thinking very clearly and straight up just asking, Nolan if he was a Kryptonian. As Nolan would have answered with, "What do you mean Kryptonian?" As Nolan would have been kind of shocked. But as Nolan would have just brushed this off, him trying to think about Kryptonians and their history, them being the only 1% of species that have been able to best the Viltrumites, but not all the way, because he did know the grandson of one of the Viltrumites that infiltrated Krypton and killed or destroyed Krypton. Over time, what would happen, Krypton and pretty much mainly Voltrum, would have been just doing the thing, not really doing much, just trying to do conquering. But over time, Nolan would have just been, Omni-Man. As Nolan over time represented Superman, thinking that he would be a huge obstacle in his, array of destroying the Justice, or very much the Guardians of the Globe, and killing them, since they would be the biggest, pretty much, obstacle that Nolan or Omni-Man would have to face. Over time, this obstacle would become bigger, him seeing the pure strength and abilities that, Clark exhibited, with him having extra abilities on top of already being incredibly strong and durable and fast. As Clark would have raised Jonathan somewhat there, him being there at the same time as, Omni-Man would be, them taking some small time off, them both knowing that they had children, but then never meeting each other's children, or their children never meeting each other. That over years, Mark and Jonathan would have grown up. Jonathan being told that he would exhibit Kryptonian abilities when he gets older, as same as Mark. Now, Jonathan would have been about the same canon age he would be in the Superboys or the Super Friends or the whatever Robin and Superboy comic, about the same age that he would be when that comic would start off, where he would start to exhibit Kryptonian abilities, as he would start to exhibit multiple abilities such as superhuman durability, speed, strength, reflexes, also laser vision, cold breath, and that would be it for now. But he would exhibit the other abilities like flight, X-ray vision, X-ray vision, super cognitive, basically just super strong senses, super fast senses. As Jonathan over time would have just exhibited some of the base abilities of Kryptonians, him trying to become a hero like his father, as he would have trained with his father the same as Mark's training. Mark gained his powers the same as in canon, Jonathan just having them a little bit longer, since he would be younger and he would have his powers and get them more earlier in his life. Now, Jonathan would have actually been not a child prodigy, but very much be incredibly smart and intelligent. Him being switched to high school, us getting switched a couple years, because in this canon, let's just say the prior events of original canon would have been delayed, since the events of Superman being incredibly strong and stuff like that. Pretty much what happened, same-ish thing would have happened, but pretty much Omni-Man would have been, straight up, overall just resenting, Superman, as he would slowly figure out that Superman wasn't, a Ultramite, as he would have tracked down or followed Superman after pretty much the first time, not the first time, but the first couple years of him being Superman, about a month before Mark got his powers, as Omni-Man would have been looking and would have tracked down Superman figuring out that he was tracking him and stopping before he could follow Superman to his house or to the Fortress of Solitude, as they would have a little bit of an argument. Omni-Man pretty much saying he's a Ultramite, and basically Superman at that point not really knowing if he was one of the good ones, because a couple years ago John would have been about, since the years passed, not years, but a couple of years, so canon Superboy is about 15 with the Super Sons series, so I was about 16 years old. He'll be about 15 turning 16, so yeah. As he would go to school just the same, and eventually go to the same school as Mark, as he would come across Mark one day in the halls, as he would meet up with him, have a quick little talk, and just walk past each other, not really thinking about it at all. Them, that being the first time they ever will meet, and, the first time they met, and also the beginning of their friendship against, the second most powerful man, or powerful being on Earth, Omni-Man. Now, pretty much, you would get switched to the beginning of the episode, the canon episode, as you would see the pretty much Guardians of the Globe would have stopped the Merlin twins from attacking or from killing the president at the White House. As they would attack them, us getting introduced to our new cast of characters and the Guardians of the Globe, Darkwing as well. And after that, we would get switched to Omni-Man showing up near the end, alongside Superman also showing up, basically fighting and taking down the Merlin twins pretty quickly. Him taking down one of the Merlin twins by punching them up inside of the face and knocking them out with one punch. And Omni-Man overall just saving saving Darkwing and also saving a couple other civilians and also one-shotting or one-punching one of the Marley twins as well, as they would both be celebrated alongside the Guardians of the Globe, as Superman would be an official member of the Guardians of the Globe, other than Omni-Man just being a, side helper of the Guardians of the Globe, not really joining them. Now, as pretty much Superman and Omni-Man would have gone their separate ways, later that episode, we would get switched to Jonathan. Jonathan's day would have been, going very well. As we would get switched to Mark after Jonathan, as we would see Mark and Jonathan would have been having the same conversation with their father about their abilities and their powers. As Mark would have just walked away, Clark, pretty much Jonathan is still being mad about how he can't fly yet. He also doesn't have, pretty much X-ray vision or super hearing or any other things like that. He does have X-ray vision, but doesn't have super sight, super hearing. The only thing he has is, super durability, strength, reflexes, also laser vision, and that's basically it. Now what would happen is pretty much Jonathan would have just walked off, as Lois and Superman's relationship, or Lois and Clark's relationship, would have been a little bit better than Debbie and, Nolan's relationship. Nolan's and Debbie's relationship would be somewhat like Lois Lane and Superman, but Clark and Lois's relationship would have been exactly like their relationship was in the comics of Super Sons. As pretty much Jonathan, later that day, would have been obsessed with becoming a hero, him designing some sort of a hero costume, him inserting it off the, a symbol of L, and pretty much, stuff like that. Him eventually making the same costume or the same outfit he would have in the Super Sons comic. Now, John would have been doing the same thing as he would be doing as he would be doing if he was in this universe. As he would normally get ready to go to school after he would see his father and his mother go on a trip to France, and Mark's mother and father would have been planning a trip to go to Italy. As that would have happened, we would get switched to day pretty much one of Jonathan and Mark's journey of becoming heroes. Now, Jonathan would have not started training with his father yet, just starting to get the handle of how to keep his powers in check, not how to use them in fighting, pretty much hand-to-hand combat, or just overall being physical with people. Now, as this would happen, we will see that Jonathan, as we get switched to Mark and his day to school, as he that morning would have tried to fly the same as Jonathan as well, but nothing would have happened. As we would get switched to pretty much Mark going to school, as he would, encounter his friend William, as William would have been talking about the whole event with the Merle twins and saying that Superman stopped him alongside Omni-Man. Same comment about how Omni-Man's hot, and also saying a little bit of other comment on Superman. Mark really looking up to both of them, but more of his father. The same with John. As, Mark was telling me the whole entire thing about how Omni-Man was there before William said about anything about Omni-Man. Basically, William saying that Superman and Omni-Man make a pretty good team. But who do you think will win in a fight, though? And William saying that, question. Now, pretty much, Mark is on the betting side with his father, saying his father would probably win. Or saying more, especially Omni-Man would win. But it being a whole fan base saying that Superman would win because, he's shown a lot more strength than Omni-Man has. As pretty much Mark would have overheard the whole entire commotion with Amber and Todd. Todd being the bully. If you've seen episode 1, you've seen it. Basically, Todd, bugging her about dating her, so like that. As Mark would have stepped in, trying to de-escalate the situation and say, "I'm pretty sure Amber's been clear on her feelings towards you, and also been clear to bug off Todd." As Todd would say, "You're serious, Grayson?" As he will straight up beat the brakes out of Mark. Basically, Mark falling down to the ground and him about to get knocked out one more time or kicked or stomped out. Amber would have kicked Todd right in the corners, knocking that man, just pretty much not knocking him out, but, making him skedaddle pretty fast, as Jonathan would have seen this. Jonathan would have just walked off, him not really being interested in this whole entire thing, and as he switched to Amber and Mark's first, pretty much, what was it, not in correlation, but their first talk. Now, as this would happen, Amber would have found an interest in Mark, saying thanks. And basically, after that, we could switch to Mark, and Mark taking out the trash at his pretty much job, as he would have thrown one of the trash bags trying to take him out, but would have thrown it out of the atmosphere. Him finally saying it's about time. His powers, well, manifesting. As we would get seeing that Mark would have told his parents, as we get switched to Mark telling his parents about his powers and how he manifested them. As Nolan would have been suspiciously actually pretty concerned, saying, "Are you sure?" Him saying, "I'm pretty sure," threw a trash bag at an outer space. As pretty much Nolan would have been looking at him with some sort of just looking in his soul, just trying to figure out if he's saying the truth. But what would happen is pretty much Debbie would have kicked Nolan's leg, telling him, that's great. Basically, Mark's father saying, "I'll take you out for training bright and early tomorrow." Now, what happened that night, as Mark would have, gone to sleep that night after dinner, as we can say same thing with pretty much Jonathan. As Jonathan would say he manifested the ability today, he manifesting super hearing. Now, as, Clark would have said, "That's amazing, son. It's amazing, son." Basically, him saying that, "I'm really proud for you." After this, pretty much, we get switched back to Mark. And Mark would have the same flashback when he was a kid. His father saying, stuff like how one day you'll be as strong as him, be able to do some stuff, and the same stuff as him. Now, what happened that night, we will see that, Mark would have been given a little bit of a watered down story, or like a very modified story of Viltrumite culture, and he would also get, pretty much up that night going out to fly. As he got out to fly that night, doing the same thing, almost crashing into a plane, as he would have woken up the next day, as he would have gone out to train with his father. The same thing with Jonathan, as Jonathan would have been trained with his father the first time using his abilities, as he would train with his strength, how to control it, along with his laser vision, and how to focus his abilities when he needs to or when he wants to. Now, Clark would have still taken the same, thing about how we are so powerful, and that you need to be careful, son. The smallest, outbreak, if you just get angry for 1 second, you can kill somebody. Now, as Clark would have told this to his son, Jonathan, they would start to train hand-to-hand combat, him telling or pretty much showing Jonathan how to throw a left hook or how to punch. After it happened, we would say that Jonathan hasn't activated flight yet, but he was getting trained how to use his, super strength, his super hearing, and also his super speed, as he would also have that with his super strength. Now, as Mark and Nolan would have trained, them having the same training, thing happening, and basically I've seen that Nolan would have been, training him how to fight or how to punch, and him, just, straight up, like, dogging his son in one foul liver shot, knocking him the freak out, or knocking him down on his back, man. I just mean, like, put him down. I mean, like, just straight up hit him down, like, for real. As he would still tell Mark about how, if you really want to do what I do, you need to know that you have to be prepared for anything. Basically, him saying that no one's gonna pull their punches, especially if they're trying to kill you. The same thing with Clark, but Clark wouldn't punch his son that hard, just enough to knock him on his ground, knock him off his feet. Now, as pretty much Clark would have ended off the training day with that him telling Jonathan to get ready and to get started for tomorrow for school. The next day, we would see that Mark would have gone to school. The same thing would have happened. Todd trying to, pretty much hit on, Amber, as pretty much Mark would have went over to Todd and told him that, pretty much stop it. Basically, as Todd would have tried to punch him, pretty much Mark not being phased at all, him just staying there like he wasn't even phased in the slightest. Pretty much, Jonathan trying to figure out what was going on. As he would have just, walked off, being kind of interested in pretty much Mark now, trying to figure out if that was just him being strong, because he knew yesterday he got his butt handed to him, but now he's just stood there like Todd didn't faze him at all. As later that day, we would see that Mark would have gone out pretty much to, do crime fighting, him putting together a makeshift outfit. As Mark would have gone out with his vigilante outfit, his put together outfit like this, as he would go out to try to fight some crime, him going against Titan. The same thing would have happened with Jonathan. Jonathan going out with a vigilante outfit. Jonathan would have gone out with his vigilante suit or his vigilante outfit, but this would be his main outfit for now at least. Him putting on his hoodie outfit with, his red shoes and his put together Superman hoodie, as he would have got from, his birthday. As he would go out and fly, basically coming across another villain. This villain being the Invincible's universe version of Parasite. As Parasite would have been robbing a bank, him running towards, or pretty much speed blitzing towards Jonathan. As Jonathan would have dodged, shooting a laser beam at pretty much Parasite. Parasite taking this insane, thanks to the power-up kid. Him shooting another laser beam at Jonathan, pushing him back into a wall. As Parasite would have lashed onto Jonathan, trying to absorb his energy, Jonathan pretty much looking like a pruned, raisin, as he would have used a huge bolt of solar radiation or a huge bolt of light laser vision, as he would have blasted pretty much Parasite away from him. As he would start the fight against Parasite, punching hits after hit after hit after hit, eventually him landing an uppercut on Parasite. Parasite absorbing each bit of Kryptonian genes or each bit of Kryptonian power from Jonathan's body. Jonathan feeling a little bit dizzy, his speed being, depleted, also his durability and strength. As he would start to get pummeled down to the ground and him about to die, as his father would have jumped out of nowhere, him shooting a huge laser beam towards the feet or the floor of Parasite. Parasite falling into the sewage line, and pretty much what was it? Pretty much Superman rushing towards Parasite, grabbing him and flying him all the way to the sun and dropping him in space and flying out. As Parasite would have started to just sit there in space, about pretty much eventually would die in space, but for now he would just be floating in space. Now after that, we will see that pretty much Superman would have told Jonathan, "What were you doing?" Basically him saying, what are you doing? The same thing would have happened to Mark going up against Titan and him eventually being saved, or him eventually being helped out by his father. After that, pretty much Superman would have told Jonathan that you messed up your outfit, but basically saying that we have another one at home. Him taking Jonathan back home. After that, he would have took Jonathan to the, Fortress of Solitude to get fixed up, but also he would take him back home after that. Same thing with Mark. Not the same thing, but Mark would have been, saved by his father. His father would have took him to the tailor to pretty much get, a superhero outfit, a traditional one. After that, we would get switched to, after, Mark would get, or pretty much put the basis for his outfit, as he would still have the conversation with his mother, and it would also be a conversation with Lois, with Jonathan. Jonathan saying that, I always wanted to be like Dad, but now it's getting harder. I tried to be a hero, but I almost died. I don't understand. How can I do the things Dad does? He puts his life on the line every single day, and I can't even survive 1 hour without getting pummeled. As Lois would have told him that your father is different, but he's just as you. He has will, strength, and he puts his life on the line because he cares about people. He's a good man. And I have the same feeling that you're going to be exactly like him one day. After that, we would get switched to Jonathan and Mark getting trained the same time as Clark and Omni-Man would have been training their children, as they would be flying, and as, pretty much Mark and Nolan would have been, catching ball or pretty much playing ball with their superpowers. Pretty much, as Mark would have been, training with his father, playing ball, as he would eventually get called by pretty much the tailor, and he would be told that his outfit was ready and it was set to go. As Mark would have been exhilarated and he would have been overjoyed. As he would have been flying around the city with his new suit, basically just doing some, air tricks and stuff like that. As we would see that pretty much, Jonathan would have been walking on the back of the farm, basically him trying to conjure up his powers, or trying to concentrate as hard as he can. As he would have focused all of his willpower, would have kneeled, and would have jumped up as fast as he can, and him assuming that he was going to fall down to the ground, but willing himself to torpedo into the sky, as he would have been out of the Earth's solar system. As he would start to, lose consciousness, as he would start to try to breathe out space, he would have flown back down to Earth, crash landing in the back of the farm, or pretty much on the back of the house. Now, as pretty much Jonathan would have gotten back up, as Jonathan would have cheered with so much, pretty much excitement behind his yells. Him saying that was awesome. As his father would have shown up, him being all across the world, but him hearing Jonathan's yells as Jonathan would have slowly fell back to Earth, him crash landing. As we would get switched to pretty much Kill Cannon and Mark fighting. As Mark would have taken down Kill Cannon with one blow, just pretty much folding him, as Kill Cannon would have been knocked out straight up, just out for the count. As Mark would have made a lot of, public damage, because he would be punching him through buildings and stuff like that. Mark would have still made his dent, him taking down Kill Cannon with a lot of ferocity. Kill Cannon being basically out for the count. As Mark would have been recorded being the hero, as Kill Cannon would have been knocked out cold. As after that, we would get switched to pretty much the Guardians of the Globe being told, or being pretty much called for pretty much a meetup. As we would see Red Rush and a bunch of others pretty much get called to the, get called to the fortress, or pretty much the meeting area of the Guardians of the Globe. As we get switched to Darkwing, as Darkwing would have left, taking down some crime, or took down some bad guys, as we would get switched to Superman also being called to the Guardians of the Globe. As Superman would have been occupied with Jonathan, as he would have shown up there right after Omni-Man would have murked all of them. Him taking down all of the members of the Guardians of the Globe. Them all being just lights out. Them just being gone. I mean, just they're done. They're dead. They're dead. They're dead. They're just dead. Basically, after that, we would get switched to pretty much Superman showing up a couple minutes after the whole entire thing would happen, as no one would have been knocked out from the back attack, or from the attacks he's getting back from pretty much the other members of the Guardians of the Globe. As no one would have been on the ground, pretty much Clark getting there, trying to figure out what was going on, him seeing all this death, and basically him trying to look around and see what's going on, as he would have been using his X-ray vision to see what's going on, but the Guardians of the Globe pretty much lacing their whole thing with lead. Also, pretty much having a bunch of things just happen. As he would have tried to figure out what was going on, what happened, what went down, as he would have called pretty much the, department, and try to get them there to see what's going on. As they would have shown up, as they would have got there to pretty much get the Guardians of the Globe's bodies and a couple other stuff put together so they can try to re-erect them, but to put it simple, they're all dead. They're not coming back. They're dead. one of them are gonna come back, but they were mostly dead. Now, also, I'm gonna be bringing back another member of the Guardians of the Globe other than Immortal, but just wait for that. Now, so after that, we'll get switched to the end of the episode. So the end of the episode would have ended off somewhat the same. The Guardians of the Globe being dead, and the Meg team showing up there. Superman telling them while trying to figure out what was going on. Now this will be the beginning of episode 2, but I'm going to leave it up here. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. And as always, guys, have a blessed day. If you guys like my new side camera view with the, other than the, phone view, just go in the comments and say it. But yeah, so tomorrow I'm going to be doing a double upload. I'm going to be uploading my stop motion, and I'm also going to be uploading my stop motion maybe at like 6 something, maybe like 7, and yeah. So yeah, I'm going to be uploading those later in my stop motion later in the afternoon. My what if Deku was Ant-Man what if is coming out tomorrow, probably around 6 something or 7, about like a couple hours before my stop motion comes out. But yeah, so just stay tuned for that, and catch you on the flip side. Deuces.